All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pipeline Pioneers, a SalesIntel show where our focus is to help the community learn from the experts, from practitioners, and from the leaders as to how to generate the most optimal pipeline for their business. As we know, pipeline is the heartblood of any organization, and we at SalesIntel believe that generating pipeline is a team sport. It's not just the responsibility of a BDR team or the marketing team or the AE. It truly takes a village to come together to build a pipeline that ultimately converts into revenue. Today, I'm excited to have Kathleen Booth from Pavilion with us. Kathleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Manoj. It's great to be here.
Yes, thank you. So, Kathleen, to kick things off, why don't you tell the community about you, your business, and how in your role do you help influence or generate the pipeline?
Sure. So I am the SVP of Marketing and Growth at Pavilion, which is the world's largest private community for go-to-market leaders. We have over 10,000 members in more than 450 cities around the world. My career has been in marketing for the last, 15 to 20 years. And I owned an agency for 10 years. And then I went in-house and was head of marketing for a variety of different B2B tech companies. And then I joined Pavilion actually as a member in the fall of 2019 and was a member for 3 years and experienced the value. And so when an opportunity came about for me to join the company as head of marketing, I really jumped at it because it's rare in your career as a marketer, for most people at least, to be able to market a product that they've deeply experienced as a customer. And so it was great to do that and to also market to an audience that I know and really appreciate so much.
That's great. That seems like a dream job. So in your dream job, how do you help influence the pipeline for Pavilion?
You know, at Pavilion, 100% of our pipeline is marketing sourced. And I've been in this position once before in my career, and that company also was very grounded in community. And so that's part of what drew me to Pavilion is I believe in community as a marketing strategy. And Pavilion, you know, some of that groundwork was laid before I got there, so I certainly can't claim credit for having built that engine. But it's been interesting. So we have obviously a lot of members around the world, and so we lean very heavily into customer-led growth. You know, I'm a big believer that happy customers beget more happy customers, which is why I was really excited last year. For about a year, I also ran customer success, because in a business where 100% of your pipeline is inbound and so much of that comes from word of mouth, it was really great for me as a marketing leader to be that deeply embedded in the customer success organization, because it had such an outsized impact on the outcomes I was able to achieve as a marketer. And so I think, you know, member-led growth in our case, brand is really important. There's a lot of communities now, and I look at building brand as essential, but all of it has to be grounded in a really strong foundation of data and information on not only who do we have now within our membership base and who's happy and who's not, and what cohorts are thriving, and what does that tell us about our product, but also, you know, what is the potential market? What is our TAM, and how, and which parts of it, you know, should we really be tapping into when, in order to stay focused? Because we're not a huge company. Yep. And we're trying to operate profitably. And so I think focus is a really key theme, especially over the course of the past year, when so many of us across B2B tech have been hit with right sizing of our teams and smaller budgets and high expectations.
That's right. So thank you. So that brings the question I was going to ask you. Last year was tough for a lot of companies, right? Companies just did not hit their revenue goals. They didn't have enough pipeline, or the pipeline that was there didn't convert into revenue, right? Because macroeconomic headwinds were, impacting all of us. And along the way, we all made mistakes. If you were to look back into last year, what is one thing that jumps out to say, you know what, I wish I'd done things differently?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is last year, right around late January, early February, we switched from offering people the ability to join Pavilion on an annual basis or a monthly basis to only allowing them to join annually. Part of that was because we believe, and I still do believe this, that like it's really not possible to truly comprehend all the value you get as a customer if you're only here for 1 month. And we also want people who are joining to truly invest in becoming a part of the community and a part of the network and having a give before you get approach, not people who are transactional or who are just coming in. I think the phrase I've heard used is like smash and grab, coming in to get all the value and then, get out before the renewal happens.
Yep.
That's not how you build a sustainable community. And so we had this idea that we would shut off monthly memberships. And we tried it for about 3 months. And what we saw was that it definitely helped from a cash flow standpoint because everybody's then paying up front if they're only coming in annually. But it really, really took a hit on our conversion rates. And the other thing that I think we're starting to see now is it also impacted our churn, candidly, because there's a psychological element to this. When people come in and they're paying annually, their membership comes up for renewal. It's a much bigger decision. They have one moment in time, 12 months in, when they either have to say yes or no, versus people who subscribe monthly. They're smaller decisions, smaller yeses. And if they keep saying yes along the way, there's a degree of momentum involved where, funny enough, they're more likely to say yes at the 12-month mark. So our retention is actually better for monthly members than it is for annual members because of that, because it releases some of the pressure on the purchase decision when it's just running in the background. And effectively, that just means we're part of the subscription economy, like so many other businesses.
That's very, very interesting. Have you thought of, I'm sure you thought and looked at the numbers as to what happens when you commit for annual, but you make the payments monthly? Does that change?
Yeah, we talked about that, but we don't actually have that offering at the moment. And we've theorized on, would that make a difference? And I think where we've landed as a company philosophically is that we believe we should be leaning in almost entirely to making the product great so that we don't have to play any games on the front end in terms of the subscription types and where we're heading. And we're not there yet, by the way, because some of this requires some technical and product background, but we want to make it as easy as possible for members to cancel, and to just hit a button, whether they're an annual member or a monthly member. We don't want to have anybody feeling like they're held hostage.
Yep.
And so that's our kind of promised land that we're trying to get to. And what we're doing right now is investing in the member journey, investing in that customer experience at the same time as we start to build out the roadmap for what needs to happen from a product standpoint to be able to support that.
Makes sense. Well, we all learned a lot from last year, right? 24 is here. We have lots of new initiatives, new budgets, new experiments, and new goals. What is one thing that you are most excited about trying this year for pipeline generation?
Interestingly enough, for the first time, at least since I've been with the company, we're going to test doing some outbound. We've never done it since I've been here. I think they may have tried it 3 or 4 years ago, but it wasn't really successful. But I think the other dynamic of the last years, we had a lot of members either join who were between jobs or existing members who lost their jobs because of all the layoffs that happened. And we want them in the community and we want to be able to serve them. But what we don't want is to throw off the balance in the community. And we don't want people to join and think this is just, a place full of unemployed people. And so one of the things we're doing is really proactively putting together target lists of accomplished CXOs in different geographic markets that we think should be members of Pavilion and going after them in partnership with our local chapter heads who are members and seeing if we can kind of steer that ship a little bit more prescriptively than we've done in the past.
Oh, that is great. That's awesome. Well, growth comes from many different channels, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Let's switch the gears here. Growth comes from many channels and you're experimenting some new. The key here is to make sure that what we are distributing our budgets, our resources across those channels efficiently. So this is a working exercise here, Kathleen, where you have 100 pennies on the left-hand side, and here you have multiple channels through which you can generate pipeline. And you, in this case, are in charge of generating the pipeline for the Pavilion. How would you invest your pennies across these channels?
So this is an interesting question because I guess not all of these necessarily require money, but if we're equating money to effort as well, then my answer would be that I'm going to base this partly on what's working for us right now because our strategy correlates very closely with some of the boxes here. I would put 3 of those groups of 10 pennies into founder-led growth, because that right now is driving 30% of our pipeline.
Very cool. And
so
Sam is right there, right? Every single day he's active. He's on the
his
front
LinkedIn
line.
is a pipeline generation machine for us. And I would extend that to the other members of our leadership team as well, because there's others of us who participate and contribute, but Sam is definitely leading the way. So 3 there. And then I would say, I would put, and I guess the question is, if we're talking about, we call it member-led growth, which I suppose is really
customer-led growth in your case, right? Your customers are your members.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but it's a little vague because it's like community, but I think you're probably referencing participating in other communities. So I would say customer-led growth. I would put 4.
Oh, wow. I love your focus and concentration of investment.
Well, we don't have a huge team, so we've got to be focused.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I would put, so that's 7. I would put probably, gosh, and I can't split my pennies, can I? I would put 1 in event, 1 in marketing, and 1 in brand. And I really, really would like an 11th to put under partners, but I understand that's not possible.
Let's double click on that. What kind of partnership will work for you, and what are you seeing in general, talking to your community members about partnership?
So partnerships is one of our 3 key pillars of growth for the year. And the only reason I haven't put something on it here is that so our 3 pillars this year are partner-led, event-led, and member-led. But as I described, we have certain things that are already working really well for us, meaning like our founder stuff, our brand stuff, and our marketing stuff. And so the partner, event, and customer-led investments are incremental for us. Partner, we've worked very hard over the last year to form a number of new strategic partnerships with companies like Winning by Design and GTM partners, with venture capital and private equity firms like Insight Partners and Marlin Equity. And those are going to be, I think, very important relationships for us going forward. The reason I didn't put a penny behind them is I think we still have internal infrastructure we need to build out, and processes and disciplines we need to build out in order to see the results of those relationship investments. And so I think that that's really going to be like a next year thing in terms of showing the impact on pipeline for us.
Got it. This is very, very helpful. So Kathleen, let's take a look at this screen, right? And on this slide, we have aggregated, the investment from different GTM leaders and charted them here, right? So you can see how other GTM leaders have decided to invest their pennies. I'm going to overlay your data on top of this, where the blue is community, and the averages of the community, and the orange line is yours. When you look at this, what surprises you?
I am shocked that more people are not investing in customer-led growth. Yeah. I am shocked. I just think, I wonder how much that is because they have either weak products or, they're lacking product market fit. And so they're trying to use some of these other strategies as a crutch. I don't know. It's very interesting to me that is so low. And also that founder-led is so low. We just actually did some joint research with Kickstand PR on basically founder participation on social media. And it's so fascinating because something like 90% of people agree, including founders, and agree that founder participation on these platforms is important, but something like only half of them actually invest the time to do it. So there's a real disconnect there.
Could agree more with you. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for joining us, and thank you for sharing your insights. I'm sure the community is going to get a lot of value out of it.
Great.